Hey everybody, it's Libby with WootRecruit. What is WootRecruit? Well, we are the recruiting solution for the high turnover industry. If you're in cleaning, lawn care, you name it, we are the recruiting solution for you. We are super excited to be back for another episode in our series of the Recruiting Profit Flywheel, or the Profit Flywheel for recruiting. And I have my guest here, Chris. You want to introduce yourself quickly? And we're going to get into clicks.
Yes, so I am Chris, CTO or the Chief Technical Officer here at WootRecruit. So everything systems and everything keeping that engine running.
Awesome. So we just covered impressions in the prior video and why those are important. And today we're going to cover clicks. And what are clicks? So in our revenue profit, I'm going to share it with you guys. In our revenue profit flywheel, we have clicks next. And what are clicks? Well, the definition of clicks is the number of times a applicant has clicked on your job posting. And why is this important? Well, this is it's important because high click-through rate. So a high click-through rate indicates that your job posting is really engaging and it's relevant to that applicant, which is super important, which leads to more applicants, which is what we all want. It's why you're listening. And we're going to get into why it's important, what can we do to increase our clicks, what should we look at for getting better clicks, and also what is that percentage of impressions to clicks, and what does healthy look like, and what does broken look like. So, Chris, if you want to jump, we want to jump in, and we can get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about clicks, I want to also make sure that we also include the transition from impressions, which we had spoke about previously in a video, into the clicks. So how to get from, again, point A to point B to make that click a reality. Because, until it actually happens and until somebody actually clicks on something, you haven't put the energy in or the time in to get it working. So a click is when you actually have a realized result or something actually happens. So we're going to talk about everything before that point and how to get somebody to actually click in and convert that impression to that click. So there's quite a number of things that go into this. And with impressions in the previous video, what we talked about was really getting in front of the right people at the right time on the right platform. And so the next stage of this is really trying to figure out, how to get that person to decide if this is the right opportunity for them at the right time in their life. So Libby, really, I guess just starting with the first topic here for the first point in terms of it being for the right person at the right time in their life, we need to make sure that number one is when we're talking about clicks, we're talking about, let's say on third-party platforms like Indeed, is going from getting it in front of them to them deciding to look further into your company or to actually click into that job ad or to find out more. So
Yeah,
this is really kind of boiling it down to the relevance to the job seeker. It's making sure that whatever it is of value enough for them to look further into it, to understand that. And this can come into play with everything we talked about before with those impressions, which is, again, the job title, whether they feel it's relevant to them or not, or if it's just kind of awkward and doesn't make much sense in context to how their brain thinks. And so this is something that's super important because, again, you might have heard the concept if you're familiar with EOS, the entrepreneurial organizational systems. It's all about speaking the same language, both inside of your company, but also speaking the same language externally. So it's what your end user, in this case, applicants, what language they use and what language they speak. You want to make sure that you're using that same language. And that is going to determine.
Language differs by area, right?
Yes.
So if you're Seattle, Denver, Dallas, Florida, it differs. The language differs by area, but also what you're trying to attract.
Yes. And so that all comes into that relevance. It's again, in their eyes, not in yours. I want to make this distinction. It's whatever it is in their eyes to what they feel is relevant. So again, if it's a customer success manager, does that feel relevant to them, or is it really something else? And this is where I think things start to kind of get wobbly when you're talking about it being for the right person. Yes, you might get a click, but again, is that click something that is really going to get you to the end results? Or are you getting the wrong people because it's not relevant to the right people?
Yeah. Um, Definitely. So one thing to look at here is also the factors that influence clicks besides relevance is pay, and then reputation, the reputation of the company, which I would call the employer brand.
Yes. Yeah. So again, pay being the next stage or the next step is, whether somebody chooses to click on that ad or not, really boils down to, again, is it the right thing or the right position for them in life? Think about this. Every year, there's statistics that go out from MIT. They do research on every demographic, every city out there, and they boil it down to understanding what the standard of living is and what's required for somebody to actually feel comfortable with where they're at in life without feeling overwhelmed. And this really boils down to recruiting and understanding that in order to get the right people to click in, we need to make sure that it's the right things that they need or want in life to feel that they have a stable environment. And again, this comes down to pay. I hate to say it. Money's not everything, but it's the starting point.
Absolutely. It is 100% the starting point. And it's so important because, money is what attracts them to our job, but our culture is what keeps them. So if we can't even attract them, it's really hard to stay competitive and to get those clicks.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is really, if I could boil it down to two things, it would really be, in just getting in front of just very basic shot in the dark. The two things that are really going to get somebody to actually make motions towards your company. Number one is pay. Number two is relevance. Without anything being said, without going any deeper, of course, we have a few other topics to talk about. But until we get those things nailed down, 80% of the way there, then you
Yes.
can consider it not getting in front of the people that you need. And again, the buck stops here. The engine stops here, to be quite honest. And you can't really make progress if you can't get people clicking in. It's point blank.
And then the last thing I want to cover with clicks is the ad snippet.
Yes.
So I post my ad on Indeed, and I have my job title and my job description, but Indeed creates snippets for everybody, for all your job posting. And if we're using non-relevant terms, a good example is a hygiene technician as the title for a job ad. What happens is Indeed's AI will create snippets, and those are just like a little box, and it has just a little bit of highlight of the job, so it entices me to click it, right? So that you get that click, that apply. But what happens is if we're using non-relevant titles like a hygiene technician or super soaker operator, or we're using a lot of words in our actual ad itself, it's what happens with the AI, because now all these platforms use AI to create the snippet. The snippet will get over creative. And it will start to add things to your job like health insurance. And you're like, but I don't have health insurance. But the snippet says health insurance. Well, it's because we talked about hygiene and health for cleaning in our ad. And all of a sudden, the AI got over creative and created, and they thought that you offered health insurance because you said health and hygiene in your job description.
So what was happening is that, again, because of this new emergence of AI and technology, you have a lot of hallucinations that happen with that technology.
It hallucinates a lot, because the next time I looked at the ad, it said she had dental insurance, and she didn't have dental insurance, but it pulled health and hygiene for cleaning.
To the extreme, we've had some instances where it shows that you need a master's degree in order to clean bathrooms.
Yes, so we recruit for a franchise, and we won't tell you what franchise it is because we want to keep recruiting for that entire franchise. But they do have the word master in the name. And because of that, the AI got super over creative or hallucinated. And in the snippet, it said that it required a master's degree for that position. But it was only because the word master was used in the ad, which is insane.
Yes.
So make sure you're not being over creative with the job description. Make sure it's true. Make sure it's relevant. So the snippet, because what goes into that, again, is it relevant? Your pay, your business reputation, and then the ad snippet. That is what contributes to a great click, just on a high level, right? We're going to leave budget out of this.
And for the sake of Indeed, the ad snippet is at random. And so you at least have let's just call it a summarized view of your actual ad. Again, it's a little taste of what's to come is the best way to say it for the applicant. What can happen is, again, depending on, what type of cake you're serving, if it looks nasty, if it looks bad, if there's just so much going on, that doesn't look good, must have this,
or if it doesn't make
that.
sense, like I'm applying for a bathroom, I'm applying for a cleaning technician, and it says I need a master's degree.
Yeah. So it can really throw things off. And this is kind of where it kicks off in the first, at the first stage with the clicks. So it's really just making sure that everything is really locked in, dialed in. That's our, I love to say, like with WootRecruit, that's our specialty, is really diving in and having these sessions and brainstorms around how to get these things running right.
So let's dive in, Chris. What is a great conversion rate from impressions to clicks?
Yeah. So I'll use a range instead, because I don't like to give exacts, because then people start to fixate or focus on that. So a good to great range.
We covered impressions in the first video, in the prior video. So we're covering clicks now, and I have a few examples here, right? Impressions to clicks.
Mm-hmm.
So what's a great range of percentage? The percentage of people who see my ad, that's the impression, versus click my ad.
Yes. So from good to great, the range should be 5 to 10% on average. Again, every location is different, especially if there's a lot of things at play. Whether out of country applicants, you have a flood of them. Again, there's some things that should be outside of this, but good to great is 5 to 10%.
Okay. In my 3 examples, I have 6%, 14%, and 5%.
Great.
Mm-hmm. So, and if it's oddly high or oddly low, what should I look for?
So let's go with the oddly high, or it's significantly high. What could be happening is a number of things. Again, like I said, the 2 major considerations are pay and relevance when you're coming down to it. So if it's really high, then to be quite honest with you, the relevance might not reflect the pay, or so there's 2 different ways to go with this. One is you've really locked it in and really dove in and have that flywheel running. You have that momentum building with your company, your brand, your reputation, to where things are really running nicely. And so based on that relevance,
that's my percentage for this.
Yes.
This actual screen share is my cleaning company here. So we have a 14%. But I will say, I think ours is high because we've really committed to rewriting our ad to being true. We've redone our core values. We hired an EOS implementer who helped us redo the core values. We got away from why we were even doing what we were doing. Like the why. And when we really nailed all that back down and we put it in our job ad, it really resonated with a lot of people, and it really helped with our recruiting. And we didn't even do it for recruiting. We did it more for growth of the business and retention.
Yeah. So I'll give you another extreme here, and then I'll also go back, because I want to focus more on what it looks like when it's not good. But real quickly, if it looks great or if it looks too good to be true, there could be some kind of offset with the relevance for the job. Again, what you're hiring for, and the pay that you're advertising. So if you're advertising $100,000 for an entry-level job, absolutely you're going to get some clicks. So it might be a little bit off from the norm in terms of what's out there right now. Now, for what it looks like when it's not working right, again, we're talking about below 5% impressions to clicks. Again, relevance and pay being that huge factor is, are you living up to the standard in your area for what you are asking of someone to do? Now, this again, keep in mind that what's going on inside of an applicant's head is they're looking for an opportunity that's going to fit right in their life at that time, based on everything else that's going on around them. So if the norm is to, again, minimum wage considered is, what's their living situation? Is that right to them? Is the pay aligned with that expectation? And is the job aligned with that pay? These are usually the biggest factors that come into it not performing right from impressions to clicks.
Yes. One thing I want to add, Chris, to this is that as a business, we should be looking at this at least every quarter. And what do I mean by that? Is that recruiting isn't static, right? It changes. We can't just set our job ad and our pay and then not look at it for a year, because our competitors are watching us and they're going to catch up to us. So all of a sudden, if you feel like your clicks are down, like you don't like, man, my impression, the percentage is down. Have you looked at your pay? Have you went and compared yourself to your competitors? I can guarantee you probably were the most competitive company because you were on it. And then what happens is we hand it off to somebody in the office or office manager, and it isn't relevant no more. Like, our competitors have caught up. We're the lowest paying job, or, oh my gosh, my biggest competitor is paying $2 more an hour. They offer more benefits now. They've upped their benefit package. But maybe you did too, but you didn't reflect that in your job ad or what's being posted out there. And then my caution also is with ATSs. If you're pushing those ATSs out there, sometimes you can't go back and change those. If they get pushed out and you don't forget to close those down or shut them down, they go out there and live forever. So,
or what's worse, Libby, sorry, what's worse is if you decide to use these free options out there or ATSs, and you throw something up on an ATS, but you completely forget about it, and you log in and you get it running. Again, this could be like the first year of your business, and then 5 years later, you're running another business. I'm sorry, your business has grown, but you still have this old thing that's out there and showing the wrong pay, the wrong title, the wrong reputation.
Everything.
Again, it could be everything. So, yeah, it could definitely impact you there.
So when I say to the business owners, it's not static. This needs to be reviewed every quarter. When you do your quarterly review of your company, make sure you include the quarterly review of your current recruiting. And is my pay still the same? Is it relevant? Is it competitive? Are my benefits, have we added anything? Is it reflecting in the job ad? Is it relevant? Do we need to add more benefits or offerings to our recruiting because we're falling behind? So make sure you do a market analysis against yourself, to your current competitors and their pay, to make sure you're staying up, and you're staying competitive out there, because it is getting super, difficult to recruit during these times because everyone has caught up. I feel like the first year I was in CBF and I learned how to pay for performance, percentage pay, I was like, oh, I'm the highest paying cleaning company in all of Fort Myers. And now I'm like, oh crap, they all caught up to me. And now I'm not the highest paying job. We're all level set now, almost with pay. And it's really interesting. I see this happen with a lot of our WootRecruit customers as well. Pay for performance gave you that advantage, but now a lot of people have caught up, and it's just like, now we've level set. And what else can I do to attract these applicants to click my ad versus my competitor's ad?
Yes. And Libby, knowing that and saying that, and I want to give you your company as an example, is yes, at some point the competitors have caught up in terms of pay, but what you did in the meantime was you built that momentum. You created that compelling brand, and your reputation is known. Like people know your company throughout the town, and so what you have now is whenever you have a job that's, let's just say, the similar or even below average in terms of pay, is that reputation, what it looks like online, what people are talking about. And when I say what people are talking about, I don't mean person to person. Sometimes what I mean is through comments they've left before or through reviews. Again, because Indeed has applicant reviews or employee reviews on your company that you don't know about, is what those reviews look like just when somebody's blindly searching your company. And if you, and we've seen this time and time again, and we've worked and coached people through it to actually improve this, but you might have a 1.5 star out of 5 rating from previous employees or maybe applicants who it just didn't feel right and flow right. We'll go in through some other concepts through the rest of the revenue flywheel later, or the profit flywheel. But again, it's really kind of like what remnants are you, what impressions are you leaving on those applicants over time? And this kind of goes back to the profit flywheel later. That's causing that reputation. What does it look like to them?
Yes. And I can tell you that the reputation alone helps you get more clicks for less money. If you saw my snippet that I was sharing, I'm one of those fortunate ones that I can market organically for applicants. That's why mine has zeros, but I put money in other places because I build on the employer brand side so that we're more visible on social media. And I do pay on social media for my recruiting versus pay on Indeed. So there's a whole different strategy, but it's creating that brand so that you stand out. I walk around town and they're like, "Oh, you're the orange lady," because our colors are orange. And it's creating that brand because that helps us with the clicks. It's the company reputation because again, pay got competitive and we still pay great, but we are not blowing our competitors out of the water like we used to. But at the end of the day, what I want for clicks to be relevant on this video is that recruiting is not static. We have to make sure that if it was 3 months ago or 6 months ago, that job ad is relevant, the pay is relevant, the benefits are relevant, and we're sharing our company's reputation online so that it can create a great snippet. So the right fit person is inclined to click on my job ad to then do the next step, which we'll cover in the Profit Flywheel next, is apply starts. And we're going to dive deep into apply starts. How do I entice people to actually start applying and finish that application so that they can get to an interview? And we're going to cover that in the next video.